Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Amanda and I am a neurodivergent woman. I have autism, ADHD, aphantasia, and a rare memory disorder called SDAM. So today with me, I have my dragon kitty and one of my favorite fidgets, non-sponsored from Specs, that I just really like to play with while I'm talking. So today's video, I really want to talk a little bit more about what happens after you get an autistic diagnosis and what spaces you might end up going through. When I was 38 is when I first learned about aphantasia. And when I first learned about aphantasia, which is the inability to visualize in your mind's eye, it was like, oh, well, that's a cool thing about my brain. And I filed it away. And sometimes I think about it and it's like, oh gosh, being able to see things could be really helpful in a lot of situations. But overall, it wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't life-changing. Life went on. And then shortly after that is when I learned the word SDAM, which stands for severely, some people call it SDAM. I usually just say the initials SDAM. But anyway, which is severely deficient autobiographical memory. And that one was a bit more of a relief to find out about because I experience memory very differently than the vast majority of people. And while I think every single person has a very unique experience with how their memories work, mine is definitely, my memory just is almost non-existent. Trying to explain that to people when you don't have a language for it growing up was always very difficult. And there was times when, as a teenager, I secretly had Alzheimer's disease because that was really the only memory disorder I'd heard of at that time. But fast forward at 42, getting diagnosed with autism and ADHD, I thought it was going to be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I'm autistic. That explains so much of my life. And then I thought I was just going to carry on. Nothing was going to change. How wrong I was. And I'm glad I'm documenting the process of this on this YouTube channel. You can check back. I've got a playlist of on videos where I specifically, talk about the process and the journey that I've been going on with after my diagnosis. Because I've moved through a lot of spaces in a short period of time. And I just wish I had some previous knowledge to know what to expect, and someone else out there that was saying these things where I wouldn't feel less alone. Now, I have come across some creators on TikTok, but the videos are so short, it's a little bit harder to connect and understand. But yeah, and I really hope this video hits some family members, because as crazy and frustrating as this experience is for me, and how hard it is to explain and understand what's going on internally, I know it must be even more frustrating for family members of somebody who's been recently diagnosed. So one of the current things that is going to be unique to me because of my memory disorder, but I'm sure everyone, well, I don't want to say everyone. let me rephrase that. Every single person who is autistic is unique, and some of this might be relatable and not all of it will be relatable. Me having a memory disorder on top of it is definitely going to be a little bit of a unique experience. I've always had a memory disorder, but this diagnosis is kind of like a delineation in time and space, like Amanda before an autistic diagnosis and Amanda after an autistic diagnosis. And one of the things that's frustrating for me right now is that I'm losing my memory of myself before the diagnosis. So the coping mechanisms that I had before I was diagnosed autistic. And you might be like, well, what are you talking about? Well, so I'm trying to find the words to explain this. My pug is down there whimpering. So before I knew that I was autistic and ADHD, I obviously have always been that way, right? It isn't something that just happened to me. I always had it, just didn't know that I had it. A lot of the language that would be used for me before my diagnosis were things like, if I was having a low executive functioning day, I would tell myself like, oh my gosh, why are you being so lazy? Get up, do the thing. It was like kind of very negative, right? But after getting a diagnosis, and it's like having this key unlock a whole world of vocabulary to explain how my brain is working. It's refocused how I think about things. So now when I'm having a low executive functioning day, I know that it's not that I'm being lazy. It's that my brain is not able to do the things that day that it could do another day. And this could be because of stress, overstimulation, a hyper focus. So sometimes with an autistic and ADHD person, you will see them be extremely capable at the thing that they love to do. And for kids, this might be video gaming or something that looks like just a lot of times it does. It looks like a hobby. But for an autistic person, our hyper focus regulates our brains. It it just centers us, okay? So this last week, for instance, I really wanted to do some chores around the house. Like I really needed to clean the kitchen. I needed to get caught up on laundry. Just, some basic household things. And I could not do these things. Like I just couldn't. My brain would not do the things that it needed to do these chores. And it could work on hyper focus. I created a lot of content, and I even rebranded my cooking channel from Dit Dot to the Neuro Spicy Mama. That's a whole nother video. I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm wanting to recenter that content a little bit more about cooking, but accessible cooking for neurodivergent brains. See, hyperfocus, I can just start talking about that because I'm super excited about it. So it's not that I was lazy. My brain got turned on to its hyperfocus this weekend, and that was like all I could do. I could not clean the kitchen. I could rebrand an entire YouTube channel and Instagram account. And to somebody who is non-autistic, on the outside looking in, they're like, what? If you could do this, why can't you do this? And it's just like, it doesn't work that way. And before the diagnosis, I would have gotten really frustrated with myself. I would have had negative, I would have felt guilt for doing one thing over the other. But here's the thing with my memory disorder comes in. There was something that was part of the mask that was like a kind of an identity that I took on, like Amanda can push through, Amanda can get things done. And there was something that I could do where I had some kind of coping skill that I was able to push past my executive function days and I could override my brain and get things done. I'm not saying it was healthy. It led to burnout. This is not a good thing. So this is not a good thing. This is not like, oh, commendable. Like, yay, you can push through it. No, this was this was the mask. This was the undiagnosed person responding to societal demands of perfection so that I would not feel guilt and shame to do something that my brain and body did not want to do or really shouldn't be doing that day. And that's why autism really is a disability. Our brains are not created to function the way that society is set up. My brain that day wanted to do content creation. So I've learned that on days like this, there is a responsibility to be a good human, right? So if my executive functioning is low and I can't do a lot of the basic healthy things that you need to do, I will focus on the things that I have to do. Like, yes, I need to make sure I eat. I need to make sure that my kids are taken care of. I need to make sure that like some basic hygiene things are met. But then the rest of it, it's like the kitchen can wait. I'm going to do what my brain wants to do. And I was just kind of going with it this weekend and just, I had the freedom to explore it and feel and just see like what happens if I don't try to make myself do the things that my body and brain are screaming don't do. Like you just get paralyzed. Like even today, was kind of dysregulated. I had therapy earlier, and it was an intense session. I was feeling a little dysregulated. I knew I needed to go to the grocery store. The executive functioning to be an adult human being with children needed to go to the grocery store today. I was sitting on the floor in front of my space heater because I was cold and dysregulated, and I could not move. Now, one tip that you hear a lot on ADHD circles and stuff is something called body doubling. I haven't read into it too much, but I think it's like when you have somebody to do the thing with, it can help the task. So my children both do online school, and I knew that my daughter Izzy did not have any online lessons this afternoon. So I sent her a message. I was in my bathroom. She was in her room. I sent her a message like, can you go to the grocery store with me? And she said, yes. And it's like having that other person with me to do that task made it so that I could do that executive functioning. So that's a good coping skill. If you have access to somebody to do the thing with you, it makes that task so much easier. And I was able to go to the grocery store. If she had said no, I don't know. I was stuck on the bathroom floor in front of my heater. That's like all my body and brain wanted to do right then. And so I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of talking in circles, but with my memory disorder, I know that I was the kind of person who could push past and do these things even when I didn't feel like I could, but I don't remember how I did that. I don't have access to that anymore. It's already gone. Like my diagnosis is like 3-ish something months old, and I've already lost like how did I used to do that? I don't know. It's that's really bizarre. And maybe it isn't the memory disorder. Maybe this is common. So if you're an autistic person following along on this unmasking journey, and you're like, hey, I used to be able to do these things and now I can't, please comment down below. Let me know that I'm not alone in this. I came across a video that I thought had a really interesting perspective on the autistic mask. And it really talked about how the mask for high functioning autistic people can be used as a privilege. Some autistic people have to mask for safety. People who, just because of their demographic, their location, just there are certain things where if they are not masking in society, then they put themselves in danger. So while unmasking is the best practice for mental health for autistic people, some people don't have that privilege. For me, I'm learning to unmask for my mental health so that I can regulate my system, not get overstressed, overstimulated. But right now, I'm in this space of like, it's like I'm almost forgetting how to mask in a way. Like, some of it's still there, like how to be polite to somebody and not be rude or too blunt, like how to temper or filter my words. When a lot of autistic people really, that bluntness that is characteristic just is true to how our brains will work. And so I'm still fairly good at being able to filter my words, in a way. It depends on my company. Like some people I'm going to be more open and yeah, but that's the thing. Like I can choose. But I'm having a harder time with some of the masking stuff that I did when I wasn't in public because my mask wasn't just out in public. I did not even know I was masking. Pushing through when you have executive dysfunction is a mask. It is still me, like, oh, look at me. I'm a perfect stay-at-home mom who can do all the things. And that wasn't healthy. So, but it's weird because like I said, I'm forgetting how I did that, but in a way it's good, but it's like I want to have access to that. So the video that I saw where it's talking about the privilege of being able to put the mask on and off and being able to choose when you mask and when you don't. Ideally, society would be nice that nobody would have to mask, but being able to have that as an option is sort of a privilege for high functioning, or that's actually a really bad term. I'm sorry I said that. A level 1 high masking autistic people. Right now, I'm still going through a lot of processes. Like I'm processing so much. It's all happening very quickly. I feel like I am processing a lifetime of emotions really fast. I grew up so many times being told the feelings that I was feeling weren't real. Like, oh, you're not too cold. Those lights are not too bright. Those sounds are not too loud, because those were other people's sensory experiences. And so I internalized them and believed them. And it's like you become kind of dead to that stimuli. But you pay a price for it later at home. That's when you like can't cope and you can't go out and you can't, like you do pay for it, but you don't know that any of this is happening. Now with the diagnosis, I feel like right now I'm feeling all the repressed emotions that I've felt my entire life all at once. And it's very intense. I am more aware of how cold my body, like I hate being cold. And I'm more aware of how uncomfortable it is than I've ever been before. I'm like more aware of how bright lights are. Like I've got a ring light behind the camera right now. It's very bright. And these are things that I had learned to somehow just repress. But now it's like everything is much more intense. It's like I said, it's been unlocked in my brain. So if you are newly diagnosed or you have a family member that is fairly newly diagnosed, just be patient with yourself, be patient with them. Thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss future videos. And until the next one, guys, bye.